The nurse had just turned off the lights in her small locker room when the sound of heavy boots echoed down the quiet hospital corridor. It was nearly midnight in Norfolk, Virginia, and the winter wind rattled the windows of Harborview Medical Center. Rachel Morgan had finished her last shift. After 12 exhausting years in trauma care, she had signed her resignation papers that morning. Her badge was already clipped off her scrubs. She thought she was walking away quietly. But then the elevator doors opened, and a group of United States Navy SEALs stepped out in full uniform. They moved with calm precision, scanning the hallway until their eyes settled on her. And in a voice steady and respectful, one of them addressed her as "Ma'am. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the quiet heroes who never ask for recognition, take a moment right now to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this deserve to be heard." Rachel froze. For a second, she thought they had the wrong person. She was just a nurse in worn-out sneakers and faded navy scrubs. Her brown hair was tied in a loose bun that had nearly fallen apart during her shift. There were dark circles under her hazel eyes from too many sleepless nights. She had spent the evening helping stabilize a car accident victim and comforting a frightened teenager with a broken arm. There was nothing heroic about her. At least, that's what she believed. The leader of the group, a tall man with a composed expression and a neatly trimmed beard, removed his cap as he approached her. His name patch read Bennett. The other SEALs stood behind him, silent but watchful. The hallway seemed to hold its breath. Rachel's heart began to pound. Her mind raced through memories she had tried so hard to bury. 3 years earlier, on a stormy night much like this one, a classified patient had been rushed into the ER. The hospital had been placed on temporary lockdown. No one had been allowed to ask questions. The man on the gurney had been unconscious, bleeding heavily from injuries no one explained. His chart had listed him under a false name. Rachel had been assigned to him because she was calm under pressure. That night, she worked for 8 straight hours beside a surgical team, helping stabilize him. She remembered the weight of his blood-soaked uniform, the deep shrapnel wounds, and the steady beep of the monitors that seemed too fragile to trust. She had whispered encouragement as he drifted in and out of consciousness, even though he never responded. She had treated him not as a classified secret, but as someone's son. Someone's brother. Someone's future. When he was transferred to another facility, she never heard what happened next. No thank you. No update. Just silence. And now, 3 years later, the SEALs stood in front of her. Commander Bennett explained that the man she had helped save that night was part of their team. His real name was Michael Turner. He had survived because of the rapid decisions made in that emergency room. Because of her insistence on double-checking a blood transfusion. Because she had caught a subtle drop in blood pressure seconds before it became fatal. Rachel felt her knees weaken. She had nearly forgotten that moment. In the chaos of trauma care, victories were rare and often invisible. Patients left, and new ones arrived. There was never time to reflect. Bennett continued, explaining that Michael had fought his way back through surgeries and rehabilitation. Today, he was alive. Today, he was home with his wife and newborn daughter in San Diego. And tonight, the team had been in Virginia for training exercises. When they learned that Rachel Morgan was finishing her final shift, they decided they could not let her walk away without honoring her. Rachel's resignation had not been impulsive. Over the past year, the strain had grown unbearable. Budget cuts meant fewer nurses and longer hours. She had missed holidays with her parents in Ohio. Her fiancé, Thomas, had left after admitting he couldn't compete with a job that demanded so much of her heart. She felt stretched thin, invisible, and unappreciated. She had started to believe that her work no longer mattered. There had been nights when she sat in her car in the hospital parking lot, gripping the steering wheel, wondering how much longer she could keep giving pieces of herself away. Compassion fatigue is real, and it had wrapped around her like a heavy winter coat she couldn't remove. So she decided to quit. She planned to move to a quieter town in North Carolina and work at a small clinic. No more trauma bays. No more sirens. No more life or death decisions every hour. But as she stood there, listening to the SEALs speak about Michael, something shifted inside her. One by one, each member of the team stepped forward. They didn't give speeches. They didn't dramatize. They simply nodded to her with gratitude in their eyes. Hardened warriors, trained for the most dangerous missions in the world, were standing in a hospital hallway showing respect to a nurse who had once held a clipboard with shaking hands. Rachel realized something profound. She had never needed a spotlight. She had only needed to know that her sacrifices weren't disappearing into the void. That somewhere, someone was alive because she had chosen to stay calm. Because she had chosen to care. Tears slipped down her cheeks, and she didn't bother to hide them. The hospital administrator, who had quietly gathered at the end of the hallway, wiped his own eyes. Other nurses peered out from the break room, stunned into silence. Commander Bennett handed her a small wooden box. Inside was a challenge coin engraved with the SEAL insignia and the words, "For unwavering courage under pressure." It wasn't flashy. It wasn't expensive. But to Rachel, it felt heavier than any award she could imagine. In that moment, she saw her career not as a series of exhausting shifts, but as a tapestry of unseen impact. She thought of the single mother she had comforted during chemotherapy. The elderly veteran who had squeezed her hand before surgery. The countless families who had heard difficult news delivered with gentleness instead of cold efficiency. The SEALs left as quietly as they had arrived, disappearing into the cold Virginia night. The corridor returned to its usual hum. But Rachel did not feel the same. She walked back into the locker room and stared at her reflection. She saw the tired eyes, yes. The loose strands of brown hair, the faint crease between her brows. But she also saw resilience. She saw someone who had stood in chaos and chosen compassion. The next morning, instead of driving away for good, Rachel requested a meeting with the hospital board. She didn't beg to stay. She didn't reverse her resignation out of guilt. Instead, she proposed changes, better staffing rotations, peer support groups for trauma nurses, mental health resources for medical staff. She spoke not as someone defeated, but as someone reminded of her worth. Change didn't happen overnight. It never does. But seeds were planted. Conversations started. And Rachel decided she would stay, not forever, perhaps, but long enough to help build something better. Sometimes, we don't realize the ripple effect of our kindness. We think our quiet efforts go unnoticed. But somewhere out there, someone's life is different because we showed up. Before this story comes to an end, I have a special request. Comment the word hope if you believe that even small acts of dedication can change the world. Let's fill the comments with reminders that what we do matters. Months later, Rachel received a photo in the mail. It showed Michael Turner holding his baby girl on a sunny beach in California. He was smiling, strong and alive. On the back, a simple note read, "Because of you." Rachel pinned that photo inside her locker. On difficult days, she would look at it and remember the night heavy boots echoed down the corridor and brave men addressed her as "ma'am." If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Your engagement helps these stories reach others who might need encouragement today. And tell me in the comments what part moved you the most. Because sometimes, the real heroes are the ones walking quietly down hospital hallways, unaware that the world they saved is walking back toward them with gratitude.